The Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by these great sponsors. Are you looking to value your equipment more accurately, target the right buyers and close more deals, reach your ideal customer? Then look no further. Fusable isn't just about ag data, it's about action. Our best-in-class solution empowers you to value your equipment accurately, make informed decisions, and find the perfect prospects. Ignite your dealership's growth at fusable.com/movingiron-podcast. Out in the field, every decision counts. You wouldn't plant without testing your soil, so why would you prospect blind? Introducing EDA, your one-stop shop for ag equipment intel. EDA goes beyond specs and prices. You get deep dive data on every piece of equipment like UCC filings that help track ownership changes and uncover potential sales leads. D&B firmographics, which help you understand the financial health and buying power of potential customers. Market trends that help you stay ahead of the curve, and insights on equipment demands and pricings. With EDA, you're not just looking at data, you're seeing opportunity. Find the right buyer, sell smarter, and build lasting relationships. Visit edadata.com for your free demo and unlock the power of knowledge. For over 80 years, Iron Solutions has been your go-to data source for ag dealers, lenders, and manufacturers. Get powerful appraisal and value forecasting tools that fuel profitable decisions anytime, anywhere. Get your free demo at ironsolutions.com. Iron Solutions, confidence in every click. Today, there are many ways to finance ag equipment, but nobody delivers simple, fast, or flexible financing like AgDirect. Learn more about your options to buy, lease, and refinance equipment at agdirect.com. Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 for all your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours.
When you partner with Axon, you immediately gain access to a full range of products and solutions designed to meet the complex needs of today's grower. We carry all major brands and sizes of tires and wheels. We specialize in large diameter wheels for large equipment. We have one of the largest OEM replacement wheel inventories in North America. Known for extreme flotation setups, duals, and triples, we have wheels for all makes and models of tractors, sprayers, combines, and grain carts. If we don't have the wheel in stock, we'll custom build, sandblast, and paint in-house. There isn't a more vast inventory in North America dedicated to helping dealers move more iron. With facilities on the West Coast and in the heart of the Midwest, leverage our 230,000 square feet of indoor inventory to solve any problem a grower may have. Move more iron with Axon.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. I have a special guest named Mark Purdy from Aimpoint Research. And Mark, it's an honor to have you on here, man. I've had a few of your colleagues on the podcast over the past 4 or 5 years that I've been doing this here, and it's an honor to have you back on here, Mark. How you doing today?
Doing great, Casey, and it's my honor to be on here with you. You're reaching a lot of our farmers and those that really prioritize agriculture, which is a passion of mine and us here at Aimpoint.
Right on. Well, let's talk a little bit first about your background, Mark. Introduce yourself and kind of where you came from and how you ended up at Aimpoint.
Right. So, Mark Purdy grew up on a really small farm in Ohio, but with that passion for agriculture, we raised livestock and put a few fields out in corn, soybeans, hay, whatever was the right rotation at the time for that. Participated in all of the FFA and 4-H. Ended up getting an appointment to West Point. Attended the United States Military Academy at West Point. Graduated from there, commissioned an infantry officer, and served 25 years in the Army. You can see over behind my head here, I have the 82nd Airborne and 101st Airborne, where I had spent a lot of my time over the course of that career and served overseas, and also with the State Department in a security assistance mission, and then also at the Army War College, where I experienced wargaming at a very strategic level, problem-solving level, which is quite insightful. From there, landed at Aimpoint Research. So Aimpoint Research, we're a global strategic intelligence firm, but really focused on agriculture and the agri-food supply chain, and founded by one of my West Point classmates. At the heart of what we believe is that food security is national security, and that's what gets us up every day. What gets us passionate about farmers, gets us passionate about our advantages when it comes to the best tools, equipment, best innovation in the world, so that we can continue to lead and advance those things that are important to me when it comes to national security. So I feel like I changed the uniform when I left the Army, but didn't change my orientation towards national security. So that's a little bit about me. Lead operations as well as our client relationships teams here at Aimpoint Research. So again, I thank you. I thank all your listeners for what they do for us and what they do for national security.
Well, I appreciate you being on here, Mark, and thank you for your service. I have a special place in my heart for the service members of the United States Army and all the other branches of the military out there. So I appreciate what you've done for this country, sir. Let's jump in this first. So with your background, and for folks that don't know, most of the people that work at Aimpoint have a similar background to Mark. I mean, they're different branches of the military and across the way, but for the most part, they're all service members of some sort. Talk a little bit about your perspective that Aimpoint brings to this particular topic. I mean, you've seen the world and you've seen agriculture and the way things work all over the place, and you've seen how systems work all over the place, different governments and those kind of things. I guess talk a little bit about what your perspective is that you bring to Aimpoint, and then that perspective of Aimpoint that they bring to the research that you do and that we're going to talk about here in a little bit.
Right. So I think, intelligence, that's what we learned. Although I'm an infantry officer, some of the other military folks that serve here at Aimpoint are military intelligence, and but both, no matter what branch or what specialty you were in the service, you appreciate that intelligence is really at the core. Good intelligence is at the core of being able to make good decisions and shape your success on the battlefield, but also in business, in this business that we're in when it comes to agriculture. And so having a global perspective, because as we look at trade, as we look at our inputs, whether it's our equipment, whether it's some of our other crop inputs, the global dynamics, whether it's the manufacturing, whether it's our competitors, the global aspect of trade and the economy is really important. So that's a perspective that's really important to us. I think we understand the implications when maybe geopolitics don't quite match with the exact economic intentions that you would make, but we understand kind of the foundations and why those things happen. You mentioned that a number of us have military backgrounds, but also we have others that have good amount of experience in trade, and a former ambassador that was part of the USTR trade mission there. So that really shapes our perspective, because those types of trade, those type of economics, the geopolitics, it very quickly comes back and impacts the individual farms and farmers here in the United States. So I think that's a level set that we start with and then get into the details of good intelligence.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a different view on things that I feel like a lot of firms wouldn't have that particular skill set, for lack of a better term, when you start looking at how things roll in there. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, if you've listened to the podcast before, I've had Brett Scottio on before, and he talked about Farmer of the Future. And I guess at that time, it didn't have a 1.0, but we're going to give it a 1.0 for the sake of this discussion, because you've come out with a new one report that kind of goes through that. So briefly kind of describe Farmer of the Future 1.0, what was there and kind of what the expectations were, and then we'll roll into 2.0 here and talk a little bit about how the new reports come out with.
Yeah, very good. So Farmer of the Future, just writ large, it's the same thought leadership that we've always had, but it's between 1.0 and 2.0, it's that fundamental question: who are the farmers of the future, and what do they require of us? All of us that serve them as our customers, that serve them on the other side of the supply chain, as we look at delivering the food, fiber, and fuel that's needed throughout the world. And so, who are the farmers of the future? What do they require of us? That was the fundamental question in 1.0 and 2.0. And really, what's driving this is, we're entering into, or we have been in, this really fourth agricultural revolution that is very much data driven. It's fast paced. We're seeing the global dynamics and market dynamics where things are changing much faster, where markets are volatile, where we see that consumer demand has a much larger impact on the value chain all the way back to the producer. And some of that causes challenges, but in other cases, it provides great opportunity. So at the heart of that, what we saw is that when you compare farms and side by side, you can have the exact same farm, same commodity, same dynamics there, with very different results. And it kind of boiled down to that it was about the psychographics, or the mindset around how they approached the business of farming. And again, how they looked at some of the challenges and either saw opportunity or saw a reason that maybe they needed to defend and maintain what they had for various reasons. And so, at the heart of the research was the psychographics, and what we saw were some farmers saw opportunity, saw collaboration, were able to navigate challenging times. Some very much relied on government programs to go ahead and be able to sustain their operation and success, and others really appealed more to the lifestyle of farming, maybe a little less business-minded, and able to navigate some of these tough times. And what that resulted in was an ability for most of the folks that we worked with, again, who are the farmer of the future and what do they require of us, to be able to serve those individual groups of farmers and how they thought differently in a particular way. And we'd like to think that, and it was demonstrated in times, that it helped not only those farmers that they served, but also those businesses to succeed into the future. So that was 1.0, and talked about that. And then really what distinguishes the first from the second is the market research that goes into it to be able to define those segments.
Right on. Okay. Well, let's jump into 2.0 here and have that discussion. So, you sent me some materials to look through ahead of the podcast here, and thank you for doing that, because there's a lot of stuff in here that I wouldn't even have thought about looking at. But I think the first thing that I want to hit on is distribution by farm size. You talk about that a little bit in here, from the 2017 USDA Ag Census to the 2022 USDA Ag Census, and I'm looking through the results here, and the one aspect, the farming aspect that I thought of size-wise that I thought would have been really a no factor here would have been less than 180 acres. But there's a a steady growth in that over the last since 2002 across there for about up to about 70% now, and then of the farms are less than 180 acres compared to what it was in 2002 at 65.8%, and that's climbing. But if you look at 180 to 500 acres, that's in decline. 500 acres to 1,000 acres is in decline. 1,000 acres to 2,000 acres is in decline, and then basically 2,000 acres plus is where you see the next iteration of farming operations that are growing in size. As you look through that, what do you think some of the driving factors are in that small farming section that's growing? I mean, that's a lifestyle person. They've got a few cows, some horses. They're maybe doing they got the job in town, and they're coming in, doing the farming thing at night and on the weekends and type of stuff like that. As you look at that particular segment, why do you feel like that keeps growing year over year?
Yeah, and those are great points to note when we think about the census. So a little bit, let me just start off with, part of the foundation of the why. So moving from 1.0 of the farmer of the future, that market research, but really maintaining the thought. So we finished that up in 2018. 2023, we decided it was time to do a full refresh. Each year we had augmented that research, but did a full refresh of the nationwide survey of farmers. And really the intelligence that went in prior to the survey, when we think about over that 5 years, COVID had to navigate that. I mean, we're still feeling the effects of it, in the heat of the economy, trying to get inflation under control. So right. in many ways, we had the trade war, which we were just coming out of in 2018. Then we had the invasion of Ukraine, which maybe the fungible commodities and those things have worked themselves out. But at the time, that caused a great amount of volatility, spike in fertilizer and other input prices, which we still haven't fully recovered from. And a number of weather events when we think about between 2018 and 2023, not to mention some of our national politics, a bit of a whipsaw effect there between a couple of different administrations, as well as how the legislatures reacted to those things that I mentioned. And so in that 5-year time frame, that volatility and kind of the things that had to navigate, that really spurred a lot of consolidation.
Right.
A lot of consolidation to where you had, again, thinking about the different segments and the psychographics and mindsets of farmers, as well as their ages, that caused a lot of consolidation. So that's two things. So to answer your question, so to lay that foundation, to answer your question, the growth in the small farms. Well, I think that there are a number of those small farms that are a result of that consolidation. So you sell the 500, 600, 700 acres, the rented ground obviously is given up, or even some larger farms. But then you keep the 25, the 30 acres, the 50 acres there to have, a bit of that lifestyle, whether you're in retirement or taking on another job. So I think a part of that growth is a result of that consolidation that you see there. Going back to COVID, and what we saw was a bit of a migration from urban and suburban areas out into some of the more rural areas. So that's a dynamic that we're seeing that now, meet that threshold. For this census, the threshold is $1,000 GFI. So, you have those 5, 10, 20, 50 acre farms that then have a number of livestock or maybe some crops on it. So I think that those are two dynamics there that see a growth in that. And there's still that appeal, and we've done a number of projects and research, the appeal of the rural lifestyle as we're seeing it more in pop culture and other things. Maybe it's just wearing the clothes for some, but others actually move a little bit further and buy a little bit of land and try their hand at crops or produce or livestock. So that's the growth there.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the other side of the spectrum is the growth. And so for the census, it's 2,000 acres plus. But when we really look at it, I mean, we're seeing growth in farms, as you know very well from your work here on this podcast and others. You know, you're talking farms growing 10,000 acres at a time, and they're consolidating not only in getting out of the business, but maybe consolidating farms together because they can optimize. So then you have multiple producers on those farms. So I think those are really the driving factors behind the increase in the small farm size, as well as the increase in the much larger farms.
Yep. So I would be interested from your research if you've seen this kind of a rise here a little bit. So there's a large segment of the population, which you can see from your distribution of farm size, but there's a segment of folks that have farmed their whole life. They raise their family in that, and then they don't. Either one of two things happen. One, nobody wants to come back to the farm, or there's just not room for someone to come back to the farm after mom and dad retire. They do their thing. There's just there's just not enough there to make that work. Are you seeing a rise in more rented acres out there where folks are trying to hang on to the land that they have and then maybe just rent those out, opposed different from selling them? Or have you done any research like that shows something along those lines where you're seeing more acres for rent than acres for sale?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of dynamics in that. So first, the short answer is absolutely there's a rise in rented acres when we look at farm ground to the point that you're talking about there. So when it comes to whether it's an age dynamic that leads you to maybe it's time to make a decision, maybe there's not the succession there, but another thing kind of pushing that over the edge is just the cost of land. It's a big incentive to sell land right now because land has stayed high. It's a good investment, which leads me to my second reason on why rented acres. You're seeing a lot of these real estate, investment funds and trust REITs, as we talk about them, that are investing in lands and large swaths of land, and that's continuing to increase and grow in somewhat of an exponential way, which they then rent out these acres. So yes, the rented land is increasing as kind of a bit of capital to either borrow against or leverage for some steady income. But then also we see an investor class moving into farm ground.
Yep. So you talk a little bit about the number of producers that are on a farm. When we'll hit some of the farm numbers, what they were in 2017 to where they're at now in 2020, the 2022 census and where that goes there. But from my experience, the farm operations that are growing, they have 2 generations for sure, if not 3, and sometimes 4 generations again coming back into these farming operations. All 4 generations are in the mix. They all kind of seem like some of them have a specialty. Each person on the farm has a specific role that they're trying to do. This person might be the equipment guy, and this might be the real estate person, and so on and so forth. You kind of look at what's going on there. Crop advisors and those kind of things all come into play as you're looking at these different aspects. Looking at the research you had here, what really shocked me was over 60% of the farms in 2020 had one person making decisions on the farm. And I'm sorry, in 2002, I apologize. In 2022, that same marker had dropped almost 22% down to about 40% of the farming operations had one person make the decisions, followed up by a sharp increase from 2002 of 30% to 2022 of just under 50%, having two people on the farm making a decision. So to your point, you're really illustrating there that generationally, as these farm operations, you can see where that next generation is coming in and what they're trying to do and where they're trying to grow those farming operations at. Like you talked about earlier, there's not a whole lot of multiple generation 2,000 acre farms out there, like you talked about earlier. These are these big farms that are really making that happen. One of the things you talk about in here is the number of farms that are out there. And in 2022, there were 89,210 farms that produced 75% of the agricultural goods sold. If you look at it where that was in 2017, that was 105,453 farms, which made up 5.2% of all farming operations that made 75% of the agricultural products. That's a significant drop. Even if from your 1.0 number, you guys were even shocked by the number of the consolidation that was there. So talk a little bit about both those aspects there, the drop in farm size and then the number of people that are now in a decision-making role somewhere on the farm.
Yeah. So, I think that there's some very positive things to glean from this as well. And so you've had a number of conversations with different folks and farmers, and there's some it's great that they've stayed in some type of agricultural service, but they've talked about, hey, you either went to college or made the life decision there, and mom and dad said, hey, there's 2, 3, 4 of you all kids, and there's only room for one. And I think in the past that was definitely the case in the dynamic there. When we see these growth in larger farms that are scaled at a significant level, on the positive side, we're seeing that these are much larger businesses, and so there is room for the family succession, as well as other types of succession that are maybe good longtime business partners, farm managers, farm hands that grow up into that. So I think that's the positive aspect. One of the things you talked about, the number of decision makers and producers on a single farm is growing. Of course, our older farmer group in this census grew the most, and that's not a surprise. But I think the encouraging thing is that the under 45 group grew, and the under 35 group grew even more than that. And so, to your point, we're seeing this multiple generations and the ability through largely scale to be able to support the generations. So I think that's very positive. Now, talking about the consolidation, that, like you said, even compared to our forecasts with the Farmer of the Future 1.0 in 2018, when we modeled this out, we saw that by 2040 it'd probably be 75,000 farms producing 75% of the output, and this caused us to revise that considerably, just because for all those factors that I talked about that greatly influenced the difference between the research in 2018 and 2023. The COVID, the trade wars, the significant weather events around La Nina, and several other things. Conflict and kind of some of the policy whipsaw that we've been through is causing this consolidation in a way that we really have to think about. I think there's many upsides, but when we think about resilience of the nation, resilience and diversity of access to production, we just have to be mindful of what consolidation means. And while there are a lot of winners, there's a lot of positive upsides. We just got to watch for any of the downsides and be able to prepare and serve.
Right. So, all right, Mike. So as you look at your data and comes in there, so much stuff like you've talked about already. You've talked about, data-driven decision making and those kind of things. The amount of technology that's coming in, whether you're looking at the AI stuff, whether that's See and Spray from John Deere or all the other robotic stuff that's making its way in. Autonomous tractors are just around the corner. What's your data telling you about the adoption of technology into some of these farming operations now?
Yeah, so kind of like you alluded to there, which is part of our Farmer of the Future research, mapped out what the future is. And data is absolutely essential. Utilization of that kind of digitization of the operation allows us to be efficient, allows farmers to really extract additional value as we look at how to increase net farm income in tight times. Tech is a big piece of that. So as we look at some of our traditional implements and those types of things, and just what the technology that exists on those, as well as some of the other things that we can augment, and it goes into the biotech as well, and how we extract those value adds and navigate things like environmental pressures, and then take value add out of things like some of the human health and the micronutrition that they're looking for out of certain commodities. So we looked at that. And then as we dove right into those farmers and producers of the future, looked at how each of them thought about data and what it could do on their operation. And there's a large class. So two of the segments of farmers in particular that very much welcome this data and are already using what exists and are willing to try things even if it fails the first time, in order to stay at the leading edge of this. Others need some help adopting in adoption, which I think is great insight when we think about the different folks that serve them in a way. Some are just reluctant. We call those the Lone Rangers. If they have the idea and they want to do it, they'll come to you and ask for it. Probably not as open to being informed about it. And then others are really operating at a level. It's a lifestyle and kind of some of those things that if and when they do adopt it, it'll be quite a ways down the road. But data. Digital tech, absolutely the way of the future.
For sure, 100%. All right. So a lot of information here, a lot of things coming at folks, especially when you're talking about the more decision makers on a farming operation now, or a ranching operation, whatever it is that you're looking at. What's some of the advice you'd give folks that are listening to this that might be in an ag service provider role somewhere, whether it's equipment guy or a chemical seed guy, whatever it might be? What do you, when you're having that conversation, like what's some of the advice you'd give to that next generation sales rep, I guess, going out there calling on these farms?
No, that's really important. So one, first, to all my sales reps out there, you're important to me, and part of my passion about food security is national security. And so my advice is genuine in that there are many segments of farmers and how they approach the business. And, so that you're successful, you want to see as many of them succeed as possible. And you also want to find those that are interested in what you have. So it's kind of twofold. And so there's really a segmented approach on how you sell. So if you got something that's really working with a group of folks, keep doing that. But think about why you're not successful maybe with some others. Yep. And that's what this Farmer of the Future and this study is really all about. There's a number of folks out there that what you have may appeal to them, that you're just not reaching them in the right way. And from a national security perspective, we want to keep as many of these farmers farming even if they're just contributing a little bit. Talk about the Victory
Right.
Garden in World War II. So those smaller farms, as long as they're producing something, they're putting something back into this supply chain. That's my view. And they need to buy something from us, and they need it to keep that going. And I hope they buy it from our sales reps that are listening here today. So look at a segmented approach.
Yep. And I think you've done a really good job here of your segment characteristics that you have in the report, and really laying out what those are and kind of the definition of who they are, what they are, and what they be looking for, and those kind of things. And as a sales guy myself, understanding who you're talking to when you start going into that,
Right.
asking those earnest questions, they're going to kind of help lead that revealing of their behavioral structure and what their mindset is, are a really good thing to spend some time doing. So, Mark, I loved having you on the podcast, man. If folks want to reach out to you and at Aimpoint, what's the best way to do that?
Best way, look us up at aimpointresearch.com and just send a little note to us on there. It's pretty easy on the front of that page, and love to reach out and have a further conversation. So, Casey, really appreciate it, and it was an honor for me to be on here, and an honor to talk to your guests.
I appreciate it, Mark, and hope to have you guys back on again sometime.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Our podcast is brought to you by these great sponsors. Are you looking to value your equipment more accurately, target the right buyers and close more deals, reach your ideal customer? Then look no further. Fusable isn't just about ag data, it's about action. Our best-in-class solution empowers you to value your equipment accurately, make informed decisions, and find the perfect prospects. Ignite your dealership's growth at fusable.com/movingiron-podcast. Out in the field, every decision counts. You wouldn't plant without testing your soil, so why would you prospect blind? Introducing EDA, your one-stop shop for ag equipment intel. EDA goes beyond specs and prices. You get deep dive data on every piece of equipment, like UCC filings that help track ownership changes and uncover potential sales leads. D&B firmographics, which help you understand the financial health and buying power of potential customers. Market trends that help you stay ahead of the curve, and insights on equipment demands and pricings. With EDA, you're not just looking at data, you're seeing opportunity. Find the right buyer, sell smarter, and build lasting relationships. Visit edadata.com for your free demo and unlock the power of knowledge. For over 80 years, Iron Solutions has been your go-to data source for ag dealers, lenders, and manufacturers. Get powerful appraisal and value forecasting tools that fuel profitable decisions anytime, anywhere. Get your free demo at ironsolutions.com. Iron Solutions, confidence in every click. Today, there are many ways to finance ag equipment, but nobody delivers simple, fast, or flexible financing like AgDirect. Learn more about your options to buy, lease, and refinance equipment at agdirect.com. Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 for all your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. This podcast is proudly provided by Axon, helping dealers move more iron for the past 100 years. Find out more at axontire.com. Move more iron with Axon.
Moving higher in the 21st century.